Man City hosting Liverpool at the Etihad. We all know the job for City now. They've had these slip-ups. Arsenal have managed to maintain this league even when it looked to be wobbling at points. They can't afford any slip-ups, and this is a tough game. But equally, if they go and win this, it sends a message, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I think whoever's playing first is trying to send that message regardless of the opposition. But, this is always a tough game. And for both teams, regardless of form, I think even when there's questionable form of both teams or kind of unusual form, this game still is tight. It's never just a foregone conclusion that anyone's going to win. I think it's probably a little bit different now for Klopp, but when they were both at their peak, it's probably the only game they tweak their styles for. They tweak their formation. It's obvious tweaks and a lot more respect shown to the opposition. Where I think generally they respect the opposition but believe they'll just dominate and overrun and outscore. Which I think when they play each other, I think there's a respect. I'm going to go with City just to being at home. Again, if it was probably at Anfield, probably would go with Liverpool, to be honest. So I'll go 2-1 City.
And on to the 3 o'clock, so we may as well start with Arsenal, who are at home to Leeds. And this is it now for Arsenal. Crunch games. Every game is another step closer to that Premier League trophy, but the nerves will be growing by the game, you would think. And to be fair to Leeds, Javi Gracia's appointment wasn't a spectacular one for many people, but they have picked up a couple of big wins in their last 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, no, I think Leeds still play a lot of teams that are in around them, so they'll be looking at this as an opportunity to get some points, of course, but it won't be defining on their season. It can impact confidence, as we spoke about before. When you're playing a top team, you don't want to lose heavy, so you've got to be cautious and respectful. But yeah, Leeds are confident. I don't see them getting anything out of the game. I think Arsenal only slip up now against teams that are really competing at the top. I don't think there's a question mark over them with the lesser teams in the league. So I'm going to say 3-1 Arsenal.
Bournemouth taking on Fulham. Bournemouth, bit of a funny team, really. I mean, that great win over Liverpool. They ran Arsenal very close, losing in the last minute. But yet, just hasn't happened for them enough this season. They're still second bottom, and I think most people probably have them in their 3 to go down. And it's going to be tough against Fulham, innit, who've had a great campaign.
Yeah, great campaign, but just derailed a little bit, obviously, especially after the last outing or one of the last outings in regards to Mitrovic. That was kind of a show of emotions that hasn't been there all season, even with the manager. So hopefully Bournemouth are using that as a way to beat them. I could see them beating them, actually. Don't know why. I just think now it's took a lot out of Fulham. What they've done has been unreal. Probably over expectations in regards to where they are and how they've performed, because they definitely deserve to be there. But I can see that being have a massive impact. So I'm going to say Bournemouth 2-1.
Possibly the game of the weekend. Brighton hosting Brentford, 2 of the standout performers of the season relative to their budgets, and they come into this game level on points. Brighton got 2 games in hand on them, and I suppose from a Brighton perspective, if you go and win this game, Europe is in the palm of your hands, isn't it? So having that home advantage as well. But we've seen what Brentford can do to teams on the road. It's just a really interesting game, isn't it?
Yeah, both teams play to win. So, like you said, probably not as glamorous in regards to names, Premier League history, but styles of play and excitement right up there. Expect goals, because even when teams are winning, these teams are winning, you don't see them sit back and want to manage the game defensively. It's like, let's keep going. Both play to win and go for the jugular. So it's not a case of, oh, we're winning, can we defend that lead? It's like, no, let's go again. Brighton have been very impressed with Brighton. I didn't think they would go on to another tier under the new manager because they've done so well over with Potter, but they have done. I'm going to see both teams scoring, so I'll say 2-2.
Then we have Crystal Palace at home to Leicester, 2 struggling teams, and another manager that we saw lose his job, Patrick Vieira, your former teammate, someone you've spoken highly of. I suppose we should touch on Patrick's dismissal as well before we talk about this game. He had a bad run, but the fixtures that he'd had in that bad run, it seemed a little bit of a harsh dismissal.
Yeah, I was surprised, especially with the run of games they've got now. Because always when a manager leaves, you can look and say, are the players still committed to that course? And they were. Do you know what I mean? It was unfortunate. They played some top teams and the run of results was unfortunate. But in regards to player commitment to the manager, I think they all bought into what he was trying to do and what he did do to a certain extent. And as I said, I think it was just a panic decision because, in the greatest respect, long-term future isn't Roy Hodgson. And you can't be a safety net by just coming in and kind of potentially securing the season. And there's no guarantee, by the way, and then starting again with someone else next summer, because I'd be surprised if he's in charge next summer. So again, that would suggest it's more of a panic decision than a calculated decision.
In Leicester here, James Maddison's had a really good time on international duty. He's spoken how much it would mean to him to keep Leicester up. You know, he's such a key player for them. They'll fancy it here, won't they?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They'll go there to win and believe they can. But with Roy Hodgson, you kind of know that they're going to be hard to beat. So it's going to be the odd goal. I'm going to say 1-0, Crystal Palace.
Final 3 o'clock sees Nottingham Forest host Wolves, and we've said several times this year that Forest's home form is going to be pivotal to keeping them up. As good as Wolves had been over Lopetegui, 3 losses in their last 4, all quite narrow defeats, but still Forest, will be targeting this home game as 3 points, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. Lopetegui, again, been impressed. I know the last outing wasn't great, but been impressed overall. Forest at home, strong. So I'm going to go with my heart and say 2-2, though. I still don't see it being clear-cut either way. I think if someone's going to win, it probably would be Forest due to being at home. But yeah, also heart 2-2.
At the 5:30 on Saturday sees Chelsea host Aston Villa, 2 teams who had sort of disappointingly slow starts to the season, but are both quietly playing a bit better now. Europe is probably going to be a stretch for either of these teams, given the form of those above them, but still, finishing the season strong can set you up nicely for the next season, can't it? So how do you see things going at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, again, you'd probably say Villa are achieving what they've probably set out to do out of these 2 teams. Players playing well, i.e. Mings. Team looks comfortable in what they're doing. I think it's a tough ask. I think the international break has helped. I know he likes to coach. He's had a lot of players there, so I'm guessing they'll come out raring to go. So I'm going to go with Chelsea 2-1.
On Sunday, 2 of the bottom 3 meet in a crunch clash. West Ham at home to Southampton, and I don't know whether there's going to be an element here of do not lose on either side of it because they're only separated by a point and stuff. But in the same sense, a win can propel either of them out of the bottom 3. A huge game.
Massive game. I think both teams are aware they're in the fight, but more so Southampton. So it could kind of really cement their chances of going down. Southampton. I think West Ham is I think if they win, it's got a breath away from bottom 3, but we're still in the fight kind of thing, where if they lose, it's it's a real body blow. So I think if West Ham lose, it has a more of a negative impact than if Southampton lose from that aspect. But I see West Ham winning. I'm going to say 2-0. So West Ham.
Super Sunday, second game, Newcastle hosting Man United on Tyneside, and this is going to be potentially pivotal in the race for the top 4. I mean, a couple of games ago, it looked like United had pulled well away of Newcastle, but they've taken 1 point from 6, and Newcastle have strung back-to-back wins out of nowhere, really. So the only 3 points separate them going into this. Newcastle with that home advantage, we know what that can be for them. How do you see it going here?
I see this being a good game for Newcastle. I'll probably see a draw, but who knows if Rashford's still in that same goal-scoring form and impact on games. But I'm going to say Newcastle here. I'm going to say Newcastle 2-1.
The final game of the weekend, Tottenham, the team that we talked about, go across to Everton. Everton, another one of these teams. There's so many of these teams at the bottom who we didn't expect to be fighting for, well, necessarily fighting for survival, but they are.
Yeah.
Another team who are hugely reliant on their home form. And this is probably a good time to play Spurs, or arguably not. You just don't know which way it's going to go with the
Yeah,
new.
you don't know. You don't know who's a good time to play Spurs because you don't know what changes are going to be made. But if you're going off a similar style to before, I don't think this is a good team for Spurs to play with the current manager. I think he sets up his teams not to lose initially and then hopes they can win. And I don't think Spurs are good against them teams when the ascendancy is on them to go and win the game and dictate play. I don't think they're as strong. So potentially not banana skin, but who knows? Maybe some fresh ideas, a release of life for players. So I will go with Spurs and say 2-1.